This is the introduction to contributionism, a short, concise introduction. My name is Michael Tellinger, and I'd like to introduce you to a new concept called contributionism. What is contributionism? Contributionism is something that I've been researching for the past 4 years. It is a new socio-political order, which I like to call the New World Order, to steal the thunder away from the elite control group and the Illuminati, if you want to call them that. A new social political structure that is completely different from anything we've ever experienced. Every socio-political system we've had as a species has failed us. Not just failed us, but failed us dramatically. And we need to be wise, and we need to be strong, and we need to be smart, and realize that we cannot continue on the path we have for the past 6,000 years. We need something new, we need something fresh, something we've never tried before, because everything we've tried before has failed us so badly that we find ourselves in this terrible place that we are as a species on this planet. It is not a pretty picture right now. Contributionism is intended for a post-apocalyptic, a post-capitalistic and a post-consumeristic world where people embrace spirituality, they embrace and understand the growth of consciousness and our growth towards the universal creator or source or the divine creator or God, and understanding that contributionism is a spiritual system that has moved beyond the social political structures we have had and embraced until now. So it's not an easy concept to explain, but what's important to try and grasp right up front is that it's based on a principle of oneness. We have been so traumatized as a species because we're constantly being told that we're different, we're separate, we're not the same, that others are different from you, that you, this unique individual. Well, that is actually the trauma that is causing us to be so separate and so alone and so stressed as a species. And the only way we're going to overcome this is to realize, like Edwin Schrödinger said, the number of minds in the universe is one. And not just him, but there have been many other great scientists and physicists and philosophers of the past that have said this. God is only one mind, and we're all part of the Creator. We're all part, infinite numbers of the Creator that form this beautiful planet and the beings in this universe. And contributionism is based on this simple principle that we are not separate. We are all one. And once that sinks in, it is so much easier to step across and step outside of this prison that we've been conditioned to believe. The prison of money, the prison of capitalism, the prison of consumerism, that disgusting thing that we've been caught up in, consumerism, and buy, more shiny metal, more this, more that, more stuff that we don't need, and separate ourselves from God, separate ourselves from Source because of all this stuff that we want, and we forget the really big picture and the concept and the idea of growing and expanding our consciousness. So once you realize that we're all one, it's much easier to absorb and embrace consumerism. I mean, listen to me, consumerism. That's how conditioned we've become. Contributionism. It becomes much easier to embrace contributionism, where everybody contributes a little bit for the greater benefit of all. It's a very simple principle, but it has some very important fundamental structures that are very basic, but very, very sound, and you will be astounded. Hopefully, once you finish watching all these DVDs and all these little video clips that I'm putting together, you'll be amazed at how simple and how easy it is to put the socio-political structure together. We must just believe and understand that we need to step out of this capitalistic, consumeristic paradigm. Now, that's the end of this first introductory little clip, and enjoy the next one. I think it's painfully clear that every socio-political system we've had over the past 6,000 years, since the rise of our current so-called civilization, since the emergence of the Sumerians, when the Sumerians first mysteriously appeared with all their knowledge and information, we have now come to this point in time where things are not going well for us on this planet. We're a confused species on a planet. We don't know our origins. We don't understand our place in the universe. And there is a very desperate sense of anxiety that has sends shockwaves throughout this planet. In essence, if you step away from the planet and you look at it, it's quite obvious that the planet itself as a living organism and the people on the planet are living in a state of shock. We are both, as a species and as a planet, going through a state of shock. And when you're in a state of shock, you can't make clear decisions. For those of you that have studied to listen to Bruce Lipton, you'll understand that when you're in a state of shock, it shuts down the blood flow to your brain, and that affects not only the human race but the planet as well. And so we've reached a stage in our evolution now that things are just so bad. There's so much unhappiness and so much sadness and so much anxiety and so much tension and so much stress among the humans on this planet that we cannot even conceive anything anything else than what we are trapped in right now. So I'd like to introduce to you the concept of contributionism. What I call contributionism is something completely different. It is a socio-political system we have never ever contemplated before. It is unlike communism, it's unlike capitalism, it's unlike consumerism, it's unlike anything we've tested or tried before. I call it a post-capitalistic, post-consumerism, post-apocalyptic proposal for a new world and a new world order. And I specifically use the word new world order because I understand that that is the word and the phrase that's being used by the control elite groups of this planet. And they're trying to introduce the so-called New World Order, which is a candy-coated solution for all our problems, but it will probably cause a lot more woe and despair in the financial circles and in the state of the human race as we know it today. So contributionism is something completely different. So what I'd like to do is by asking you, what is it that we need as a species? What do we need on this planet? And I've been studying this now since I started doing research on slave species of God, which is about at least 5 years ago, since starting to write it and doing the final stages of research. And then making the amazing discoveries of Adam's calendar and temples of the African gods, I realized that there were ancient civilizations on planet Earth that worked completely differently from the socio-political structures that we have today. Remember that money is not something that's part and parcel of human evolution. Money is not something that just mysteriously became part of our evolutionary system. That is what we've been led to believe. It has been sold to us so well that we believe that money is just a natural extent of evolutionary principles in the human race. That is not so. There was a point in time in human history that money was very cunningly and maliciously introduced to this human race, Homo sapiens, as a tool of enslavement. And that's very important for us to come to terms with and be comfortable with. That is not something that we developed because it was convenient and we needed money. Okay, so let's ask ourselves, the fundamental principles of contributionism is a world that functions without money, without any form of barter, and especially without the concept of value. Alright, so contributionism, no money, no form of barter, and no idea of value. Things have no value. Now just that statement alone is a tough statement for many people to digest. And I must admit that during my 4 years of research, a few years ago when I first started researching this in small groups of up to 20 people around dinner evenings, it got quite heated, and I was almost attacked on a few occasions by people asking me, "Oh, how dare you suggest you want to take away everything I've worked for all my life?" Well, that is exactly not what contributionism is all about. What contributionism is all about, and it gets really tough here, is that everyone has everything they need. Whatever it is you want, you have. I know it sounds like a utopian dream. Believe me, it's not. The reason we immediately think it's a utopian dream, because every decision we make in this world today, every decision we make, everything we contemplate, every business idea we have is directly linked and controlled by the way that we've been molded in a capitalistic world. And all our thoughts and plans are directly linked to capitalistic and financial principles. What's in it for me? If I do this, what am I going to get out of that? And so forth. And those are very subtle but very powerful forces that play here. So let's go back. What do we need? What do we as a species, as humans, as people living on this planet need? We need love. We need food. We need shelter. We need health. We need education. We need security. We need music. We need water, we need energy, we need clothing, we need plants, we need tables and chairs, we need pots and pans, we need transport, we need birds, we need fruit, we need wonderful things, we need friendship, we need everything you can think of. The one thing we don't need is money. That is very, very important. We do not need money. Many people instinctively say, well, to have all this stuff you need money. That is wrong. It's not true. Do not believe it. Do not fall into that trap. We do not need money to have any of these things. This is very, very important. A fundamental principle of contributionism. The other important thing is to explain contributionism is not easy, because it does turn everything we've ever been taught and everything we understand on its head. Because the way the world works now basically is a pyramid structure, right? Where very few people control the large numbers that work for very few people and make more and more money for the very few people at the top. Now, as we know, pyramid schemes can only last for so long until they implode and they collapse. But contributionism, you take the pyramid and you turn it on its head. And basically what you get in contributionism, the model that you get is, for example, if I was a shoemaker in a capitalistic society, my modus operandi is, how cheaply can I make a shoe that's going to break down as quickly as possible, so that the person has to buy a new shoe, and I must be able to sell it for as much as possible. So how cheaply can I make it? How much can I possibly sell it for to maximize my profits? But it must only last for so long, so that the person has to come and buy a new pair of shoes very, very soon. That's pretty much a capitalistic kind of way of thinking. In contributionism, that same shoemaker would say the following: how well can I make a pair of shoes that the person that uses them will never have to buy another pair of shoes again in his life? It's a very, very fundamentally different approach to life. Now, if you take that approach to everything, and you understand how this turns a pyramid upside down, and it spreads the base of knowledge and information, science, knowledge, information, technology, everything. It spreads like wildfire. It's an exponential growth of knowledge and information. Because remember, there is no financial benefit and no financial gain in this structure. And I can already hear what you're thinking. You're saying, okay, well, how's this going to work? How are we going to afford everything? You see already, how are we going to afford everything? Who's going to pay for it? Immediately, we automatically get sucked back into the capitalistic way of thinking. It takes quite a while to get out of that mold and start thinking in a true contributionist way. Basically, contributionism means that everybody works together for a common purpose. Everyone does a little bit for the greatest benefit of all. So if everybody contributes just a teeny weeny bit, the abundance of everything on planet Earth is quite astounding. And I mean astounding. The numbers and the maths we've done on this, it is absolutely spectacular when you see how little the global population has to do as individuals to create an insane abundance of everything you could possibly imagine. And this is a very important point, because at this stage you realize that contributionism is not just a quick solution to a problem we have. But in fact, what it is a system, a socio-political system that is actually intended and aimed for people that aspire to higher consciousness, to the growth of consciousness and the spreading of consciousness, and growing towards a high understanding of our place in the universe as spiritual beings trapped in these physical bodies, spiritual beings having a physical experience on a planet called Earth, striving for higher understanding and higher consciousness. And that's what contributionism is really for. It is a blueprint and a foundation for that kind of thinking, and a springboard and a foundation to start moving towards that kind of lifestyle. So it's directly linked to our Creator, to our creation, and providing many answers, hopefully, through the understanding of how beautifully this can work together. And I think from now on, I'm going to start introducing you to different aspects of contributionism. This was just a short introduction so that you understand where I'm going to go with this. And now we're going to go into the deeper, more important, fundamental cornerstones and foundations of how this thing can function, why it is not going to fall over. And this is a very important thing. In the 4 years of research I've done here, is that everybody is concerned that it's not going to work, it's going to fall over, it's going to be exploited and so forth. Well, if I'm a lazy son of a bitch, I'm just going to sit on my ass and do nothing. Well, these are the obvious kind of things that people ask, because that's how conditioned we have become through the capitalistic system. Remember, and this is a great example, okay? Remember that in contributionism, everybody gets everything for free. Everything is available to everyone, from scientists that need to build rockets and spaceships to go to the furthest corners of our cosmos, to shoemakers, to chefs, to glass blowers, to anyone you can imagine, people that want to plant plants, to people that want to look after other people's children. You name it. It is a multifaceted, well-integrated system that provides a place for each and everyone, because that is exactly how it's structured. It is also very important to understand that it is not a majority rules system. In fact, contributionism is a very scary concept at first, because it actually, at its fundamental level, it means that minority rules. But you see, when you take the capitalistic principle out of this, you realize that minority rules is the only way forward, because there are so many diverse people, so many diverse vocations, so many diverse passions, art forms, interests in the world, that you cannot have a majority rule system. That is just bullying others into submission. Okay? And the fact that we've been so conned and confused that capitalism and democracy gives us freedom just shows us how well this game has been played, and how well we've been brainwashed and conditioned into believing these things like a religion, that money rules all, that if you work your way into a career and you're very successful, you can build yourself this nest egg, and then you die, and then what? Okay, remember, this is not, from the moment we are born till the moment we die, this life that we lead as people, as spiritual beings trapped in these physical bodies, this life that we lead is all about money. From the first breath you take to the last breath you breathe out, it's all about money. That cannot be the purpose of our life on this planet. People, you've got to contextualize this, you've got to digest this, you've got to come to terms with this. It's not about money. It's about experiencing life, growing your soul, understanding and yearning and trying to tap into this thing we call consciousness, and the higher knowledge of our place and in the equilibrium on the universe and our place in it. Please do not get caught up in this thing believing that money is important and the root of all things. We do not need money. Now, the next little introduction, the next little episode, I'm going to take you on a journey of what are the fundamental blocks of contributionism, why is it not going to fall over, and so forth. Remember, everyone is precious. We are all one. We are all part of the same being, the same universal consciousness. We are not separate, we are not divided. We've been told and conned to believe that we are separate and that we're divided. The moment that we understand we're all one, part of the same universal consciousness and the same universal being, we'll go a lot further towards embracing this philosophy and understanding that if you hurt others, you're actually hurting yourself. So let's leave it there for now, and we'll get to the fundamental building blocks of contributionism in the next episode. Hello, welcome to the next segment of unfolding and unpacking the concept of contributionism. Some of you may be confused at this stage, and I know that many people are very excited about this concept, and I'm going to try and unpack it as well as I can. I'm not going to read this, I'm not going to write it down and then read it to you. I'm just going to share it with you as it comes to mind, as the thoughts come to me based on the research and the work that I've been doing around this, and the pitfalls and the upsides and so forth. So in this next little segment, first thing I'd like to say to you is, imagine a world where everybody could follow their passion, follow their dream, follow their talent, their natural ability that they've been blessed with as a human being, whatever that ability may be. Because in essence, that's what we should be doing. And the brutally, horribly disgusting reality is that that's what we are not doing. We suppress all our natural abilities and our natural talents. Well, that is the system, the capitalist and the socio-political system that we find ourselves in on this planet. That is structured so that the first thing it does, it suppresses all our natural abilities, and it forces us to be educated with a whole bunch of stuff that we're not necessarily interested in. And then it forces us into a career that most people are either not really 100% happy with, but they do it because it's a good career and they'll make a lot of money, so that's why they go for it. Or they don't have a career and they just try and get a job or try and do anything to make money. So once again, you see, it's all about money. From the first breath we take to the last breath we breathe out, it's all about money. So imagine if we can just wipe that away, clear the table, and say, what is it if you had to wake up tomorrow morning and do whatever it is you're passionate about? Whether it's planting trees, whether it's blowing glass, whether it's finding scientific solutions for new energy, whatever it is, you can wake up tomorrow morning and follow your passion, follow your natural abilities, your natural instincts. That is what contributionism in essence is all about. Now I know many people instantly say, oh, it's not going to work, it can't work. Well, let me reassure you, it can work, it will work, and it does work. We have been brainwashed into believing that it cannot work, and you've got to get that out of your mind. You have to get that out of your system somehow, because this is probably the closest kind of system that the universe operates on. Just imagine other planets, other star systems, other beings on other planets using the concept of money. It's absolutely ludicrous. It's just insane for us to contemplate that. So there's a very well-known statement that people make in the society that we live at the moment. And that statement you hear almost on a daily basis, especially if you function in the world of business or finance or investment. And that expression is, it is not financially viable. No, we can't do that because it's not financially viable. No, it's not going to work because it's not financially viable. We hear it all the time. Every entrepreneur that's ever tried to do anything, everybody, any creative person that wanted to follow their passion or do this or do that, has at some stage walked into a banker and a statement from a funder or a financier that says, sorry, we can't help you because it's not financially viable. Well, it may be an innocent little statement to many people, but unfortunately, in my perspective and from my point of view, it is the cancer that keeps us enslaved. Because in that statement lies a dark, deep reality that we need to explore. And if you turn that statement around, in essence what it really means, it is not financially viable. What it really means is that millions of people around the world, billions of people around the world, cannot follow their passion, cannot do what they naturally enabled and gifted to do, because our social, political, financial systems prevent them from doing so. Now, as you know by now, that is putting people and the system, the organism we call human beings, under a tremendous amount of stress. And when you put people and cells under stress, it's called dis-ease, and it becomes a cancerous growth. And that's what we're struggling with. It is not financially viable as a cancer we need to eradicate from our vocabulary and from the system that we operate in on this planet. So, imagine you can wake up tomorrow morning and do whatever it is that you're most naturally predisposed to doing. That is the fundamental structure of contributionism. But how do you get to do that? Now we get to the really exciting, the juicy part, the foundations and the building blocks upon which contributionism is built. And it's really exciting because it's really a very creative process. It's a creative principle and a creative process. And everyone and anyone that so far in my 4 years of research has become involved in this get as excited about it as I do, because it's exactly that. And remember, creation is part of God. It's part of the creative spirit. The moment you create and the moment you allow people the freedom to create and express their natural ability and creativity, you are growing. You're growing in consciousness. You're growing in spirituality. You're growing closer to God and understanding the bigger things that we don't understand yet, and so forth. So very clearly and very quickly you can see that contributionism is a very spiritual kind of system based on the continuous growth of consciousness and this constant spread of love and spread of knowledge and spread of information, so that it grows exponentially upwards. The four cornerstones, the way that I've structured it in contributionism, are very basic. And it's from those four cornerstones that most other things arise and spring up and become subsections of. And those four are pretty much fall into Maslow's hierarchy. Same kind of thing. Food, shelter, health, education. And then you get security, either the head or the tail. Security, legal systems, legal structure. Now that's very basically put and placed in front of you on the table so that you can start thinking about it. Food, shelter, health, education, and law and security.